lefties are losing their minds on the streets of Washington, D.C. on the eve of Donald Trump's inauguration as President of the United States. Despite the cold temperatures, MAGA supporters have come out in their thousands to show their support for their president.
Y'all, look at this crowd. Look at them. Are we ready for Donald J. Trump? Yes. We have finally been unburdened by what has been. Joe Biden, get the hell out of the White House. Joe Biden got one more day to get the hell out of the White House. If we are getting our country back.
The golden era, baby.
The golden era.
It's the golden era for Donald Trump.
USA! 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 USA!
The huge turnout dwarfed the smaller group of protesters who were determined to make their opposition to the new president known.
Hey! Ho, ho! Donald Trump has got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Donald Trump has got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Donald Trump has got to go! Hey, hey!
However, commentators are all noticing one thing about the protests. Their turnout seems to be lackluster. This commentator said, "Wow, this is the anti-Trump protest in Washington, D.C. today. I've seen more enthusiasm at a funeral." This commentator agreed, suggesting the protest gets cancelled due to lack of turnout.
Well, they call it the People's March here in D.C. It starts in 15 minutes. You know, I'd say maybe they should cancel it because nobody gives a shit. Yeah, look, this is the People's March in D.C. Starts in 15 minutes. Wow, this is the anti-Trump march? It's a different world, my friends. God bless Donald Trump.
And Sky News contributor Brad Palumbo slammed the protesters, saying the marches are silly and pointless.
Well, here is a prime example of when the left just don't quite understand that the world has changed, because thousands have marched against Donald Trump in Washington, D.C. ahead of his inauguration. The so-called People's March featured people wearing knitted pink pussy hats, others dressed as characters from The Handmaid's Tale, good grief, and still others carrying signs saying "Rest in Peace, USA."
Joining us now is our man in the USA, Brad Palumbo from the Brad vs. Everyone podcast. Brad, always great to speak with you. Happy New Year. I thought there was an election and Donald Trump was voted in by the majority of Americans as president. Why are they protesting now?
He was, and look, they may have the right to protest, but it still seems pretty pointless and silly to me. I mean, he won the election, he's going to take power whether they like it or not, and a lot of their complaints seem hyperbolic and silly. I mean, I roll my eyes anytime I see somebody in a Handmaid's Tale costume. Some people seem to have forgotten that Donald Trump was already president of the United States, and the world did not, in fact, end. America did not, in fact, become a Christian fascist dystopian dictatorship, or whatever it is these people seem to think is going to happen. In fact, until COVID at least, those were some of the best years in recent American history for our economy and our country in a whole host of ways. So look, they can go out there, they could have their day out with their silly little hats and do it to their heart's content, but the whole exercise strikes me as silly at its core.
And they're always the same, aren't they? The same uniforms, masks on. It's the same old characters all the time. Seriously, Brad.
The protesters aren't just marching down the street holding placards, they're also defacing and vandalising property along what would be Trump's parade route. This commentator slammed the police response, saying, "Protesters in DC are defacing property along what would be Trump's parade route. Thousands of officers in DC for the inauguration, but these degenerates are still allowed to get away with vandalism." But the MAGA supporters aren't intimidated. This brave man walked straight into the middle of a protest wearing the iconic MAGA cap. commentator Katie Hopkins also walked into the centre of the protests to ridicule them.
Because the mentalists are back amongst us.
Who needs one?
This is a feminist march against Trump. I'm just going to show you the gentleman here standing in the freezing cold. The poison continues to spread. I don't think they said that about the jibby jabs and Fauci, but it's definitely Trump that's the poison. Okay, then there's numerous feminists, the feminazis 2.0, where the O stands for, oh my God, is that thing really a woman? I'm going to try and take you to some of them. They're joining the march. There's only about 3 people here, honestly. No one really gives a single poop. A lady is wearing a Kamala hat that she just bought. Just trying to get to the crazy pussies. Here they are, hold on. They're back. They've modified the hats though. They're more pointy ears now. And I'm not entirely sure what the message is. They're doing that same thing they did last.
The modest protest turnout is worlds apart from the thousands who are descending on DC to support Donald Trump at his inauguration, reveals Congresswoman Nancy Mace.
On a flight full of patriots this morning on our way to the U.S. Capitol, Washington, D.C. for the historic inauguration of Donald Trump. We are super excited to make America great again.
But Democrat diehards like commentator Don Lemon refuse to believe it and are finding any excuse to attempt to undermine Trump.
Too cold, Donald, really, to have your inauguration outside because the temperature is going to be 23 degrees. Okay, let's just put this into perspective. It was 7 for Reagan, it was 22 for Kennedy, it was 28 degrees for Barack Obama with winds somewhere in the 20s mile an hour range as well. It was freezing. So I'm not sure it's the cold. I think maybe it's that you're afraid of the crowd sizes and that hotels are still available and that a lot of people, as many people as, showed up for Barack Obama or Joe Biden or whatever, won't be showing up for your inauguration. I think it's the crowd sizes. That number is more important than the temperature.